What would you do if two innocent black twin girls were humiliated on a flight for absolutely no reason, and within minutes the very airline responsible was brought to its knees by just one phone call? This isn't fiction, this is power meeting, prejudice, and trust me, you'll never look at airlines the same way again. Before we dive in, make sure you hit subscribe if you love stories that expose injustice and reveal how the truth always fights its way to the surface. Ayana and Amara, 16-year-old twin sisters, walked into JFK Airport with wide smiles and matching backpacks, ready for their first trip to London without their parents, nervous but excited about a cultural exchange program they had worked hard to get into. Yet from the very moment they reached the boarding gate, something felt off, because the gate agent kept staring at them with narrowed eyes while casually waving other passengers through. And when the girls finally stepped onto the plane and found their seats, they whispered to each other that maybe they were just imagining things. But moments later, the same attendant returned, cold-faced, and told them they had to leave the aircraft immediately, giving no explanation except a vague, humiliating line that the captain isn't comfortable, shocking the girls who had done nothing wrong, forcing them to walk back down the jet bridge under the stares of other passengers, hearts pounding in disbelief. And what no one around them realized in that moment was that these weren't just ordinary teenagers, because one phone call to their father would soon bring the entire airline to its knees. Back in New York, while the twins sat silently in the airport lounge, confused and close to tears, they finally pulled out their phone and dialed their father, a man they called Baba, whose calm, deep voice had always been their anchor. But today, his tone shifted the moment he heard what happened, because their father, Malik Johnson, wasn't just any ordinary man. He was the CEO of a global tech corporation valued in billions. A man who had built his empire from nothing, who understood power, influence, and the cost of discrimination, and as soon as his daughters told him that they had been kicked off the flight for no reason, Malik's jaw tightened, his mind calculating, because he knew that this wasn't just about his daughters. This was about systemic disrespect that far too many faced silently. But today it had struck the wrong family. Within minutes, Malik was on the phone with his private legal team, and then with the airline's board of directors, men and women who instantly froze the moment they realized who was calling. Because Malik was not only a valued first-class traveler with their airline, but also a key investor in companies that the airline heavily relied on for its digital infrastructure. And when his voice echoed through the boardroom speakerphone demanding answers, executives scrambled, stuttering, excuses about security concerns and standard procedure. But Malik cut them off with the kind of thunderous authority that no one dared interrupt, telling them that his daughters had been humiliated on the basis of their skin and nothing else. And unless the airline took immediate accountability, their brand would not survive the storm he was about to unleash. What shocked the board even more was when Malik revealed that his daughters had recorded parts of the incident on their phones, including the flight attendant's dismissive tone and refusal to give a reason, a video that could go viral within minutes if leaked. And suddenly what began as two teenagers being mistreated was transforming into a corporate disaster that threatened the airline's entire future. But Malik wasn't done, because instead of simply demanding apologies or compensation, he ordered a full audit of the airline's internal practices, insisting that independent investigators dig into patterns of discrimination, misconduct, and passenger mistreatment that might be buried deep within. And by the end of that single explosive call, the airline's top brass realized this wasn't just a PR crisis. It was a war they could never win. The following weeks turned into a nightmare for the airline, as Malik's legal and corporate influence set gears in motion that they could not stop, because first came the independent investigation, revealing years of ignored complaints from minority passengers, secret settlements buried in silence, and crew members who had repeatedly mistreated travelers without consequence. Then came the media storm, fueled by the leaked video from Ayanna and Amara that Malik strategically released at the right moment, a video that spread like wildfire across social media in the US and the UK, sparking outrage, boycotts, and calls for justice, with hashtags trending for days demanding accountability. The twins, once voiceless and humiliated, were now being interviewed on morning shows, their calm bravery in telling their story earning them admiration from millions. While the airline's name became synonymous with discrimination, its stock price plummeting as investors fled. Malik, calm but relentless, used his influence to freeze partnerships, pull contracts, and tighten financial nooses around the company, reminding them with every action that when you humiliate innocent children for the color of their skin, you risk more than embarrassment. You risk your survival. Board members resigned in disgrace, the CEO of the airline was forced to step down, and regulators launched formal inquiries into their operations, while competitors swooped in to claim market share. Within months, the once proud airline that had operated for decades was teetering on the brink of collapse, unable to recover from the combined financial, legal, and reputational damage inflicted by one single act of arrogance on that fateful day at JFK. And through it all, Ayanna and Amara stood beside their father, no longer just victims, but symbols of how truth and power could destroy injustice. The final blow came when Malik announced publicly that his company would never again do business with the airline, effectively sealing their fate, and as reporters crowded around him asking why he had gone so far, he looked directly into the cameras and said, "When you touch my children, you touch the future, and the future will always win," a line that was replayed across television screens in both America and Britain, cementing his daughter's story as a global lesson. And so what began as two innocent girls being kicked off a plane ended as the downfall of an entire airline, proving to the world that sometimes justice doesn't whisper, it roars, and once it roars, no amount of power can silence it again.